Today on The Riff, Jeremy and Justin talk about change. But before that, they spend about 12 minutes talking about the most random things. Don't say I didn't warn you. We hope today is helpful and hopeful. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to The Riff. I am thrilled you're joining us today. Whichever format you might be joining us, maybe you're on, what are the formats? I was about to guess.
Video or audio.
Okay.
Or both.
Are there, what about platforms?
YouTube?
There's YouTube. There's the Apple?
The Apple, but the platform is just podcasts.
Podcasts.
So, yeah, I mean.
They have a monopoly on just the name podcasts. Like if you say podcast, is that automatically an Apple thing? Could an Android have a podcast?
You're going to, but not
owned by Apple.
I mean, you could have Apple Podcasts, but you could also have like
Are we
Spotify.
on iTunes? Are we on iTunes right now?
Yeah, we are.
This?
Yeah. Well, it's iTunes. I don't think is I think that's called music and podcasts now. And by now, I mean like for a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me the first device you had that played music in your pocket.
It was a Walkman.
A Walkman?
Yeah, CD Walkman.
Would you put it on your belt?
No, I would carry it.
You would? Like on your shoulder?
Because it
like
would skip.
Van Halen?
I did listen to Van Halen.
Okay.
But it was Sammy Hagar days, right? So I wasn't David Lee Roth.
And you prefer David Lee Roth?
I prefer Sammy Hagar.
Okay.
Because I grew up with that one.
What about John Bon Jovi? Were you ever a Bon Jovi guy?
Huge Bon Jovi.
Really?
Yeah, first CD I owned.
Favorite song?
Slippery When Wet. That's the album.
I'm going to shift gears right now because that sounds like a FEMA violation and I am not. It's safety first here.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
Growing up, were you ever a Christian rock guy?
No, just rock.
Just rock. Okay.
Yeah. I grew up on vinyl. So my dad was a big vinyl guy. So I had all of these I had Zeppelin on vinyl, and then also Def Leppard and.
So did you have
Halen.
the big stereo system in your house?
Yep.
With all the knobs?
100%.
Is that how you learned how to drive the ship?
Well, no, because it's home stereos.
Okay.
So, but my dad was into that, obviously, growing up in audio. But yeah, it was a thing. Were you like a Christian rock guy? Petra? Did you listen to Petra?
Not when my parents were around.
Yeah.
Because it's a slippery slope. It is a slippery slope.
I know. You can't.
Because even though you can have the lyrics of heaven, if you have the image of hell.
Once you get into drop D, once you get into that tuning, that is Satan's tuning.
And when there's a song called To Hell with the Devil.
Stop.
And that, to this day, I'm not sure if that's a swear or not in that context. But I could tell you, Rick Kua, I would say, I don't know if you're familiar with Adam Lambert.
Yeah.
Right? His whole, I would say his fashion, right? He's a knockoff of a guy named Rick Kua back in the day, a Christian artist. But my parents, when they would see the cover of this CD or cassette, they weren't confident this was going to be something they wanted Jeremy to listen to. So they were more into Twyla Paris. Are you familiar with Twyla Paris? Yeah. And so we would have, was it Don Moen?
Don't know that name.
Integrity Praise.
No.
And so it would be more of there would be a couple what we would call praise songs, but we would shift into worship quickly.
This is making so much more sense.
Yeah.
Because you're not you don't listen to music now.
No, because the only options I had were lame.
This makes sense.
Yeah. So I don't listen. I literally could drive. I will drive all day on a trip and not once even think about turning on the radio.
Then you're not a podcast guy.
No.
So you just silence?
Out loud.
Yeah.
What does
that mean? Silence out loud.
My mind is so busy. I love, if I have an 8-hour road trip and it's just me, I will have such, I just think. I just love to think, So I never feel, I'm never just counting the different colors of cars or anything like that, not playing games. I just really have no problem just thinking. And I don't know that that's healthy. That's just who I am. So yeah, so music is not a big deal. Like someone, Zach Rance over Nixie campus. He's also connected to what's the theater?
Atos, right?
Atos, yeah. So he's like, hey, we've got the Newsboys in town, and I'd like to give you a free ticket, which was super nice. And I understand this is a really nice gift. But now it's awkward because he says, will you go? Like, you know, and I'm like, I know he's going to be there. I can't like just take the ticket and not show up. I'm like, hey, Zach, I don't like, no, thank you. I mean, very kind, but I don't like concerts. Like, I'm not going to go to the Newsboys. He's like, you're not going to go to the Newsboys? Like for free? I'm like, no, like I said, honestly, if you paid me $50, I wouldn't go to the Newsboys. Like I'm not.
Have you been to a concert?
Yes.
What was your first concert?
Carmen.
This is so much more sense, man.
Carmen Licardella
What?
is his last name. Yeah. And I bought a can of soup. It was actually one of my first dates with Joanna Parody. And I don't know if Joanna listens. But I also brought a can of chicken noodle soup for Joanna to get in free too, because I'm that kind of a date. Yeah. And so we went there, and it was Carmen. It was human videos. It was kind of like theater and singing. So I know concerts. And then when I traveled and spoke, right? So there was like that season, like 5 years. That's what I would do. And a lot of the events are like at festivals or concerts, and I'd be the speaker. And so if we're at an event and 1,000 Foot Crutch is playing and then I'm speaking, guess what that is? It's called the smoke break. Nobody at this wild water park is there because of the speaker. I'm in between 1,000 Foot Crutch and Blue Tree or something, right? And so they're like, how long is this? 15 minutes? All right. I'll join the band in the back smoking. So like it's, so I hated speaking at events, at festivals and stuff, because I'm like, no one's there for the speaker. And especially if I use humor, I really need people to be kind of hanging on your words, or it falls pretty flat. When you got thousands of people who are staring at you like, is he trying to be funny? I literally will wake up with cold sweat sometimes thinking about concerts.
This makes so much more sense, man. This is
terrifying. I'm going to go to my I'll tell you I'll tell you the things I've downloaded, and we haven't put record yet, have we?
We did.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, but okay. People.
No,
here's the beauty about podcasts: you can just skip.
Okay, so I will tell you my music. Okay, so my music, my playlist is, I've got 17 songs on my phone. And I downloaded an album. And that's the background to a movie called I Still Believe. It's the Jeremy Camp life story.
Jeremy.
And it was the dude from, there was a show with Veronica. It used to be Archie. Archie, the comic books? There was a show. I forget what it's called, about Archie.
Okay.
And that dude was in a Christian movie, and the music moved me, so I downloaded it. But that was about 6 years ago, and that's the last time I downloaded a song. So love music.
I don't even, I'm trying to think of like where to start you. Like, because that's a rough start. That's a rough start to music.
Twyla Paris?
And Carmen.
Twyla literally, her music got me through my wisdom tooth surgery. Between Twyla and tapioca pudding, I'm the man I am. So, because when you're 17 and you're fearing dry sockets.
No, I know. Yeah.
I needed a voice in the desert. What's the last song you downloaded?
I don't download songs because you can just stream them these days. So it's awesome.
How do you do that?
I'll show you. It's crazy. You don't have to actually download them to your phone.
Really?
Yeah. You can just stream them. It's crazy.
How do they know you're listening then?
They've got some algorithms out there. It's pretty wild, man. It's The last thing I've listened to, like last album I've listened to
on your phone.
I listen to Joe Bonamassa every day. That's like my workout.
Is she the model, the 8-year-old girl that went missing?
No.
That's a John Bonet, right?
That's Japan.
Okay. I thought it was a crime podcast. I don't know.
No.
Who's it?
No, Joe Bonamassa.
Okay.
He's a blues artist, but that's like, you put him on repeat, that could work out for hours.
Really?
Yeah. So I listen to him every day for sure.
Okay.
And then there's just a spattering of others.
Okay.
Yeah. Super eclectic.
What Christian artist out there would you most likely download or stream?
Oh, man. This is a hard question.
Because you're like, is it Zach? Is it Josh Meyer? Is it Jordan?
Well, if
Drew?
they came out with like a compilation, yes, but they never did, right? So I don't want to make it awkward.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously Josh, but I don't want to make. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that out loud.
Yeah, because Jordan with his attitude.
Because Jordan,
and stuff.
he's gonna.
Yeah, and Zach with his
Oh
language.
my word! Oh my
Drew with
word.
his cold stare.
Oh, all of it, and then Whitney. Can't even imagine. You know what? Whitney might be.
Yeah, Whitney's definitely who I'm downloading. Though.
Yeah.
Between that lot.
Yeah. I don't listen to a lot of Christian music.
Okay, here's what we need to do, Riff listeners. We need to, one, you send in what secular artist I ought to download and
Stream. You can just stream it. You can just stream it. Yeah.
Stream the secular. No, don't toxin. Don't toxin these pools of pure pond up there. But help me get some good tunes. And then we also need Riff listeners send in what Christian artist Justin ought to listen to that might make him think twice about the whole genre. So,
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it. Listen, I do like Jeremy Camp. I mean, yeah. We did a stint with him. Like, really? Yeah. He's good. He was good.
Yeah.
But I don't. That's not like I.
Have you seen I Still Believe?
I haven't.
I cried.
That's that one. Did you?
Oh yeah, I did. You're a crier.
I am a crier.
You act big. You watch that, man. Watch it.
I cry. I'm gonna say it's 70% of movies I watch.
Yeah.
At least. Yeah. Wild Robot. Did you watch Wild Robot?
No.
Yeah, cried.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
I did. Yeah. We're 12 minutes in. So, did you want to talk about change today? Is that what we wanted to talk about?
Yes.
Or is that?
That's actually what I think we were planning on. And then, my goodness, here's the. This is like the church I grew up going to. You have plans.
Yeah. Let the spirit roll, man. And when you've got such rich stuff like this, why would you not?
Oh my word.
Why would you not?
I envision so many of our listeners who are driving pulled over right now.
Oh, put it on 0.5 speed.
Yeah.
Slow this baby down.
Getting out their moleskins, taking these notes. Because you don't want to just listen to this and forget about it.
No.
What are the things God's telling you? Because the truth is, it feels like we're just having a conversation.
Right. Or riffing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So honestly, I don't even feel bad because it's called the Riff. You know what you signed up for.
Dude, yeah. If it looked like we had our act together, you think we'd call it the Riff.
That's right.
But we did talk a few seconds ago about what are we going to talk about today and the idea of change.
Yeah.
And so we do want to walk through that. I know that change is a big deal. Everyone's probably in the middle of changing something, thinking about changing something or having something change to them. Whether it's relationships, parenting, it could be as big as like, do I change my career? Do I change what job I'm at in the same field? And it could be everything from, is it time to move? Is it time to buy a house, sell a house? All those kind of things. So
yeah,
the idea of change. So I think that would be good. So let me ask you this. What's a recent change in your life? Did you know I was going to go there? You know what I'm thinking about?
Yeah, I think so. So listen, if you read the book, Necessary Endings.
Okay, Henry Cloud.
He talks about
old Hank.
An easy litmus test to figure out change is to walk into a space, and if you can't find any more hope in it, it has to end. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
I'm eating eggs. It's a Thursday night. Okay. Scrambled. I like to dip my eggs in ketchup.
Oh, I know.
I mean, it is a delicious meal.
I've been at a Hampton Inn with you many a time.
It's wonderful. I look up and I look into, we've got like a bay window area that we sit in to eat all as a family. And I catch a glimpse. I catch a glimpse of myself. And I see my hair.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And at that point, I thought there's no more hope.
No.
So I said, girls, I'm going to head upstairs and I'm going to shave my head. And they were upset. Specifically, Ella.
What did she do?
She started crying. But that's
traumatizing.
That's what Jamie actually said. She's like, I think this might be trauma, Justin. But we got into a space where Ella actually shaved it. So it was fine. Yeah, she was fine. So I shaved it. I shaved all my hair off. Yeah. And when I say all my hair, it makes it sound like it was like Samson.
Like powder. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah. So that was
Did you
a
cry
change.
at that movie?
Yeah, I did actually.
You did?
Yeah, I did.
So
But
So right away, do you go through the process? Do I like it or not? Or you're like, don't matter.
No matter.
But did you like it?
It was fine. I mean, whatever. My hairline has gotten larger and further back for years.
Yeah.
So I just helped it. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, honestly, so today when I just brought that up, because the first time I saw you afterwards, I was like, hey.
You did say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know, like that, hey, I don't know if it's like, that's like oh, hey, that looks good, or hey, that's embarrassing. You can never tell, right?
Honestly,
and your voice went up.
It looked good.
Well, now you say that, but I was like, what do you think? And you're like, no, it's good. And your voice went up. And when my voice goes up, it's usually not the truth.
Really?
Yeah.
So, but then as we talk about today, maybe I'm just so used to it.
Yeah.
I'm like, you look like Justin.
Yeah, no. Yeah, people have accepted it.
So,
but that's a change.
Yeah.
That's a change.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. So would you say you're change adverse or you got a propensity towards change?
Love change when I know that it's going to benefit me.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that might be true for a lot of people. I think people are always saying, I don't like change. Change is so hard. But if I were to say, hey, they're going to change the tax bracket and we're not going to pay taxes anymore, you'd be like, yeah, I love that. I love change. So I think that there is a mental game that you play with change. Change happens no matter what. It's the unknowing of what's happening after that change that I think people are adverse to. Myself is adverse to. So I knew what was going to happen when I shaved my head. I know this is a silly illustration with my head, but I know exactly what's going to happen. So I'm not like, what happens if I shave it? It's like, I won't have hair, and I don't really have a lot anyways. So it's not like a huge deal. So yeah, the change for me on that element. Now, when you talk about, do we move? What school are the girls going to? How all of these things, I think those are, way heavier. I don't think they are heavier than me shaving my head, but the same process goes into it, right? What do we know? What do we not know? Yeah. So how do you walk through change? How do you lead change? You have led a lot of change, and I've been able to see it, but it's been fun watching. On my side, maybe not yours, but seeing how you're crafting that, how you're doing that, because you've had to change. In the past decade and plus, you have changed a lot when it comes to North Point, when it comes to leadership. So what do you look for when you do that? What do you look for when you're actually walking through change?
Yeah. So one interesting to hear from that perspective, because from my seat, sometimes I don't feel like I change enough. Or I'll even hear that. Some people, one of their biggest challenges might be like, man, you don't change anything. So I don't have this perception that I'm like this, changing a ton, because I certainly have so much more I would want to change all the time. So I'm change. I've got a propensity towards change. At the same time, I love a predictable rhythm. So, so I don't know where that places me. But when it's time to change, I'm an opportunistic viewpoint. I think sometimes, sometimes you change. I've heard this from Rob Ketterling. He's a pastor up in Minnesota, and he wrote a book about this. I think this was his title, but I certainly heard him talk about this idea that you either change before you have to, or you change because you have to. And think of it in a health situation. I had an option in front of me for many years as an adult to change the way I eat before I have to, right? And then there would be my annual cholesterol, measurements and conversation with my doctor. The last several years, where it's a strong recommendation to change the way I eat, right? But I still parked it in the category of before I have to. I don't need to. But then when you have those moments in a medical situation, it could be an unexpected visit to sickness or to a hospital, or it could be a report that you can't ignore, right? And I got one of those with cholesterol. that was like, hey, now it's because you have to. And here are your options, right? Like, for me, it's like, okay, we want you to go on, a medication or whatever. And for me, that I put medication as the point for me, like, oh, now I have to, and I'd rather try something else before I try that. Okay. And that is not a philosophy on medication, but for me, that was I have to take it seriously now. So I take it seriously. Now it's probably not near as serious as if I had a heart attack or something. Then I would probably I wouldn't have cheat days, those kind of things. So a medical deal, we understand that we change before we have to, or we change because we have to. And I think that's true in a lot of things. In marriage, the idea of a date night, it's a great idea, right? The idea of having this sense of emotional connection and intimacy, right? Great idea. But a lot of times people don't put it in the calendar because they don't have to. And then when the spouse doesn't come home, or when all of a sudden they're in this couples counseling appointment and they realize how hurt their spouse is, all of a sudden these alarms go off and they're like, I have to change because I have to. I just feel like when it comes to change, if we wait until we have to change, we've probably lost momentum that gives us the best tools for change. So my encouragement would be to change before you have to. You don't wait to get a new roof until it's leaking, right? You don't. Okay, practical things. As a church, with the air conditioning, Springfield, we waited until we had to. Well, you know what that's meant? There's been a couple weeks in January this past winter where it was real cold. Why?
Chilly. It was pretty chilly.
For whatever reason around the years, we never had put the margin. We didn't have the margin for the size of price that the size of unit, the size of campus at Springfield would cost. We were like, we'll wait until we have to. Well, it turns out sometimes you run into have to and it stops running, right? So those are some things we know facility-wise, car-wise. That's why we have, the dashboards in the car. Change, I think if we can develop our own personal dashboards, in relationships, in parenting, in our finances, if we can develop our own personal dashboards to let us know before we have to that this is the path towards have to, and so let's change before we have to, because it's going to cost a lot more and take a lot more time later when we have to. Now, you've talked about how you do this with your marriage every year, right? I think that's a great example of this. So I don't know. What are some things you guys do as parents that you start thinking about convos before you have to have them, right? Like,
yeah, and I think with change, I think it's easy to talk about change when you talk about the material. I got to change this. I got to change that. I got to change this out of my calendar. I think it becomes a really difficult thing when you talk about beliefs.
Yeah,
and you start talking about like interchange. Yeah, is way more difficult, because I think that we can sit and get set on a foundation of beliefs that in 10 years might not serve us well.
Yeah.
And I think as like a follower of Jesus, I'm really afraid of being like, well, if I pull that belief out, what happens to like, and beliefs are just thoughts on repeat. That's all a belief is. Like, that's all they are.
That's good.
So the thing is like, what thoughts are you actually changing? Because I don't think that anything is going to happen. Like if Jamie and I put on the calendar, and we've talked about this, and she's awesome with this. I mean, I learned so much from her in this space, that if we just put a date on the calendar, it ends up being a date on the calendar. And then if we end up going on that date, it's just time spent together. But if we don't actually change our minds of what we are doing with this time, that time is lost.
Yeah, that's
right.
Good.
So there's this inner element that has to change. So when you talk about all of these dashboard elements, I'm like, yes, like what are the dashboards inside of me that need to be going off, or that I need to be looking at? Because if I'm starting to look at the external and I just start there and I just stay there, I'm already lost. So that's one of the things that we walk through in our strat ops for Jamie and I, like the family one, is what are our thoughts? What are our beliefs? Like, what is the why for all of these things? Because we can put everything on the board and we can get just super detailed down. We're going to do this and this and this. But like if we don't truly believe that or want that or like think together on that, Like, that's a waste of a year, like 100%. Yeah. So that's what I've seen from you of when you say, not a lot of changes happened. I've been here with you, and I'm just going to let you know there has been. Yeah. And has it changed because now we do services on Wednesday and Thursdays? It's like, no, I still do Sunday mornings. Yeah. Like, but because we don't do music? No, I still do music. What, a message? No, I still do a message. But there's been an interchange within this organization that is healthier, that is more vibrant than I've ever been a part of. And it's because it's been a thought change. It's been a change of philosophy and of how do we actually interact with humans in a way that then puts us into the Saturday and Sunday service, right? Like that looks the same, very similar. Yeah. Safe place, fine, very similar. Like all of these things are very similar, but you've changed a ton of stuff, which has been fun to watch, and I'm very thankful to be a part of. So yeah, I think that is the key.
I think some people get excited about change just for the sake of change, and I think I don't know that I don't think that's the goal. Because you can change things and then you become unpredictable, which can also translate to unsafe. If you value change, and I love what you said, is you got to start with a why, right? You have to, what's your intentionality? Otherwise, you're just doing something, and all of a sudden now the value is a new something, shiny something, right. Those kind of things. And so what we need to say is what is the why? And if then once you establish the why, then you got to determine the what. What best helps us experience that why? So, for example, a house. Why do you live in the place you live? It's because this allows you to have the financial margin that you want to have. And that's why you bought it originally. Is that still the case? Great. If you moved it, do you lose that? So if your deal is change, we want something new, but you forget the why of why you're there, then all of a sudden now you can get a new what, and all of a sudden you've lost your why. Now I have no financial margin, I'm stressed, and that's going to impact something else. Mm-hmm. But if it's, hey, we moved here because of, we just needed something, it opened up, but now we've established the new why for this next season for our family, and it would maybe require us a move. Now we have to say, okay, what are the whys that move brings? Now let's figure out the whats. And so maybe what you don't need is a new house, you need a new schedule. Maybe what you don't, at the same time, maybe you're like, man, this new house allows us to experience something. Great. Same thing with a car. Do I need a new car? Is the why because I think that one looks cool? Well, the truth is I'll never see it. It's just my neighbors who will, right? So
usually inside of it.
Yeah, typically. If I see my car going by, then I'm calling the cops. So I gotta be careful with the why. But I'm like that. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Ooh, I love that. Ooh, I love that. And I gotta remember, what's the why for my car? A, to be predictable. And for me, I'm at the spot in my life where I want to be able to have a pretty predictable schedule that my car's gonna make it. Now, with that in mind, a lot of cars work for that.
Options, got a lot of options, yeah.
Right? And so, but here's the deal. When it comes to like a career change, there's a lot of things that sound fun and sound exciting. But if my why is more money, that's probably more of a what, not a why, because what are you going to do with more money, right? And what comes with that more money? There's a reason they're going to pay more, because they're probably going to require more. And sometimes maybe you want that, but a lot of times we're like, I value my time, or I value the known. I value, and it's not being afraid. It's saying I'm not convinced in the why. If I'm not convinced in the why, we've talked about it this way. I can't remember if it's a Derek Sivers, is it? Sivers book. Yeah. It's either, heck yes or heck no, basically. That vibe is it's if I'm not 100% confident to make this decision, that the why is exciting, I'm already sold on the why that I'm currently living probably, then just keep doing what I'm doing until I have a why that's more motivating. But I do want to land our episode with this thought. When you feel like change, you've explored the why, not just the what, because the what's always exciting. But the why is like, I think this might be helpful change. I think there's three things to consider. One is your competency. Do you have the ability to pull off the thing that the change requires? if it's a car, do you have the money? That's an easy way to filter in that. What's that going to do for your margin? Housing, same kind of thing. If it's a thing, it's the competency would be your ability, just your ability. In a church world, we want to launch another campus. Okay. When do we have the ability? Right. I mean, do we have the infrastructure? Right. That probably was a big challenge in the past when we were running a really small bench, right? And no margin. That's a big question. And that question, even when you're convinced of the why, that question might indicate it's not time to do it. So it's do you have the competency? Have you thought through it? And then the second thing is, do you have clarity? Like, are you confident that why is going to give you, is that heck yes? I've got clarity. And then the third thing is, do I have credibility with the people I'm trying to lead? And when you're leading an organization, and as a parent, you can cheat with this one. And, it's daddy said kind of authority. I don't need credibility because I'm the dad. Which is one of the best things about having kids is you don't have to even think about credibility because you can have short-term wins all day long because I'm the boss. But long-term wins don't come when even as a parent, I make a decision without the credibility. And if you think, do I have credibility with my kid? And I'm not talking about your biblical role to be able to lead and shape and guide is one, I think this is part of your biblical role, is have I established the credibility in today's schedule and today's emotions to be able to be a trusted leader to lead this conversation? As a boss, do I have the credibility with my shareholders? As a pastor, do I have the credibility? Like, meaning if I lost, if this change flops, do I still have trust as a leader? To me, that's a big deal.
Well, here, and even in some organizations, you can use that parenting principle that is short term because I'm the boss.
I'm the boss.
You get it. And I think it works for a bit.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't, like long term.
Even if you're right, you lose a relationship.
Right.
Where if you have credibility, you can be wrong and gain relationship. Now be right, have clarity, and have competency. But clarity and competency are not enough. You also need to have credibility. Now, I would say those could be a dashboard if you're leading change. Which of those areas do I have most of? Which of those do I have least in? If I don't have competency, how would I gain competency? Resources, podcasts. Mm-hmm. If I don't have clarity, explore the why. And if I don't have credibility, build relationships. Which am I stronger at? Which one needs a little more attention? Change is always going to happen when we lead it well, whether at home, at the office, at church, wherever it might be. It allows people to enjoy the journey, and it allows you to, be led by God to say, "Hey, what's the next best thing in this next best season for the people I love the most?" So, change. And Twyla sings a song about this that gives me the clarity. And so I would say go download the songs from Twyla Paris. I would say, or stream. I don't think she streams.
I don't. I would guess she's just on cassette still.
Yeah, if you go and rewind it with a pencil. Yeah. If you go, I would say late 80s. Okay. She loses some of that early 90s. Okay. She just goes a little off, I think. But late 80s is pure Twyla goodness that just gets into your soul.
No, I'll listen to it. You got to listen to Zeppelin though, and not Zeppelin 4. Which here's the deal.
FEMA one that
no Zeppelin 4 is like the most iconic album, and people are going to be like, here's the deal. People that aren't like Zeppelin fans, but they are like, I'm a Zeppelin fan, will say, oh, Zeppelin 4, that's the best album. And here's something that was crazy. So the Vowels, huge Zeppelin fans.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So I asked Whitney, I'm like, oh, Andy's a Zeppelin fan. She's like, yeah. I was like, what's his favorite album? She's like, I think it's 4. I was like, really? And that's all I say. And then Andy found out, and he went crazy. He's like, that's not, I saw him the next day. He's like, I promise you, man, it's not my favorite album.
Really?
Yeah. So don't listen to, you can listen to 4 as a starter. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Houses of the Holy, and then Zeppelin 2.
House is Holy?
Houses of the Holy. And
Houses of the Holy?
Yeah, and then Zeppelin 2.
Is this Christian?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because they're holy.
Well, it's
titles are very similar.
It's very similar.
What we should do sometime in the podcast is just give titles of songs and we say secular Christian. That'd be a fun game show. Because that sounds like something Maverick City would do.
I know.
Houses of the Holy.
Right? It's almost like everything's God's. It's almost like that. Like there isn't a divide. It's very interesting. It's weird, right? I know, right? It's odd.
Alice Cooper's
He is
very outspoken follower of Jesus.
He's
Boy, his day
sweetheart.
job.
He's a sweetheart. He is a sweetheart.
All right, you all well? I don't have anything to do.
I don't either. We
should
get
keep
into it
going?
now.
Okay.
No.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Riff. We'll have a brand new episode every week, wherever you find podcasts.